speaking. So my understanding is you're a parapro here.
Yes.
Okay. Did you work in Miss Pickens' classroom?
Yes, I did. The first year I came.
And when was that?
That was the year 2004 in September.
Okay, so you were here for the 2004, 2005, and then
Yes.
2005, 2006, and okay. So did you stay with her the whole 3 years?
I stayed with her the whole first year,
Okay.
and I stayed with her second, and I stayed with her the whole second year.
Okay, so that'd be 2005, 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So just start at the beginning. Tell me the story.
Even from, start at what point?
Whatever's the beginning for you. I mean, there's been all this uproar and all these problems and allegations and stuff. So just wherever it begins in your mind.
Okay. The first year I came, I worked with her.
Okay.
Pickens, and she seemed to be a pretty nice teacher. We had, I think, 3 or 4 students at the time in our classroom. One of the students was Jake Marshall. We had Rafika Prasadi. We had Aaron Hatcher. And at that time, we had different kids. Kids kind of like came and dropped off in between. But during that time, the first year, I noticed that she was kind of rough with the kids. It started off just rough with Jake Marshall.
Okay.
He was a pretty tough kid to deal with.
Yeah.
Pretty much nobody really wanted to work with him on the hallway. And she worked with him, and there were times where the rough started off, the mistreating or the abuse that I would say started off with him at first.
Okay.
But then as the more and more she worked with him, it escalated. The behavior started to get a little, he was a big kid. He started to get more and more aggressive. She started to get more and more angrier. And then it went from Jake Marshall to several other of the kids that were in the classroom. And from that point, it started off where I would see her jack him up against the wall. Like, he was a plopper. He plopped down on the floor a lot.
Okay.
And that would be so that, I think it started being a game to him.
Okay.
But for her, it didn't become a game anymore. She didn't like it. Nobody liked it. But because he was a pretty hard kid to get up. It took almost 2 people sometimes to have to get him up off the floor.
Okay.
And it would be to where when she would pick him up off the floor, she would put him up against the wall and put her, because she's short, she would put her knee in order the way you kind of lift someone up just enough to get him to the wall. She put her knee to support his weight, to stand himself up.
Okay.
She would take her elbow arm, like forearm, I guess, and kind of like hold it up against him. And then once she would get him up, of course, he's going to retaliate. He would try to fight back.
Okay.
And the more he kind of fought back, the more she fought back towards him. Because it was making her angry. And then it started getting to the point to where it would be to where she would do little things just to me, it was to aggravate him. Because if he's quiet, then leave him quiet. If you know that for some reason, true enough, she was the only one at first that really could work with him.
Okay.
And I think only because at that particular time, like I said, when I first came, I think she could tolerate him, the tolerance level, probably a lot more than the other teachers could. Plus, there were lower kids in the other classroom, so I think they probably didn't want to mix that behavior with the lower kids.
Okay.
But it went from that point to where it would escalate. She would kind of aggravate him a little bit every now and then, from time to time, and that would just start it all up again, you know. And then it went from that point, it went from him to where her attitude would just it would get to the point where he would get to her so bad to where she would kind of just yell. She would go off on the deep end, and you know, she would like totally lose it. And then it started getting to the point where I thought that she would take it out. She was taking it out on the other kids, probably not intentionally, but not realizing that she's doing it to the other kids. And then it started getting to the point to where it started becoming a problem with the kid, not only the kids, but then it went from a problem with the kids and the kid parent. You know, that particular kid parent. We had this one particular kid named Aaron Hatcher. He's in a wheelchair. And one time I saw her spray him with like a disinfectant. It's like a disinfectant. Not literally go up in his face and spray him, but she like sprayed him. You know, and then by him being in a wheelchair, I would see she would get so angry at the mom because the mom would send him. He used to come to school sick a lot, and there were times where she would call mom. Mom wouldn't come get him. She would be so angry, she would pick him up out of the wheelchair and slam him down on the wedge. And it kind of, that was the first year. I mean, then that was the first year.
Wow.
And it kind of made me angry because the first year, here I am, the minority on this hallway, brand new school, just opened up. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. Who can you? I'm looking at it as if all of these people, they all came from the same school. Her and our lead teacher now, which is Stephanie Sosby, they're best friends. You know, I can't go to a lead teacher, and at that time, the lead teacher, all of them were real close. So who can you go to tell that to? So I felt so bad, and eventually, that's when we were told that. I think it was DFAX or somebody that came in reference to an incident with, I think, Aaron Hatcher.
Okay.
But the principal knew of the incidents.
With all of them?
Yeah, she knew of all of them. I mean, when DFAX first came to the school, myself and Judy Massey, which were in the classroom also at the time, we were spoken to we were interviewed by DFAX along with Bill Thompson, and at that time Ms. Ward was in the office.
Okay.
So they had to have known, you know, because we would have never been called into the office. What action was taken? None. And I felt like at that point, what was the use of me saying anything if just for those incidents, nothing to happen? And then you constantly keep seeing it happen. And not only is not just doing it in front of the teachers, because every teacher on this hallway knew what she was doing. Everybody on this hallway that worked on the G Hall saw everything that happened. So nobody could never say they never knew anything. It's just that it got to the point to where what would be done, you know, if you say anything, if that one incident slid under the carpet, you know, what would happen on the next incident? Then from that point, in 05 and 06, I was told that she didn't want to work with me anymore because she felt like I was a snitch on the hallway, and she felt as if an incident happened with Jake Marshall again, where he had got a lump on his head. It was me, Judy Massey, and Miss Pickens were in the classroom. Jake Marshall was sitting on a beanbag.
Okay.
I was on a computer, and Judy Massey and Melanie Pickens, my back was facing it was back towards the entire classroom.
Okay.
So I couldn't see what happened behind me. And as I came in and I was checking my email on the computer, I heard a loud noise, and it went clunk. I mean, it was loud. And when I turned around and I looked, there was this toy camera that one of the kids by the name of Garrett Lee. Was it Garrett Lee? I just know his name was Garrett. I can't remember his last name, but he bought the camera in, and Jake kept doing something. I don't know whether he was picking his nose or he would do any little thing to try to get her attention, just to get her to kind of nitpick. And I think it just aggravated her. And I didn't per se see her throw the camera, but she had the camera in her hand, and I just heard them go. I heard her say, "Oh shit." And when I turned, she ran out of the classroom, but I didn't know. When I turned around and I looked at Judy, and I saw where the camera was lying, that meant that she threw that camera. And it clunked him on the head. Well, he had got a goose egg that fast. It came up. And when it came up, and I asked Judy, I said, "Oh my God," I said, "he has a goose egg on his head." And she said, "She threw the camera." And I said, and at that particular time, I put two and two together. Some kind of way, the custodian, Nathan, I never knew that Nathan was, him and his wife was friends with Jake Marshall's mom because she babysits. And we were just talking about an incident that happened, and he said, "Yeah, Jake mom told me about the bump that was on his head." And I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "You talking about the camera incident?" And he said, "What camera incident?" And it wasn't like intentionally to tell. It just came out of the clear blue. I had no idea that he didn't know about it. Obviously, the word got back to his mom, and to his mom, she came to the school and she had a problem with it. And I don't know what the situation or what the outcome was, but she talked to his board about it. During the classroom, she wanted us to get a story together and say that we didn't know, in reference to we didn't know how it happened or something to that effect.
Melanie wanted y'all to?
Yes. And Miss Judy said, "I didn't see anything." And I said, "Yes, you did, because you was sitting. My back was facing you, so I know she saw it. But I don't know. Maybe she didn't want to get involved, like I didn't. So the mom never per se said what happened. I know that it was addressed to Miss Boyd because it was brought down to my attention by our IST, which is Paula Merritt at the time. So she didn't go into. She mentioned it to me, asked me, was I aware of the situation? I told her yes. I told her at the time what I thought had happened. From that point, I think it was either during the middle of 04, 05. I think in the middle of 05 or 06, she no longer wanted me in her classroom because she felt like I was a troublemaker on the hallway because I, as she would say, snitched on her, which that's not what I was doing. In 05, 06, at that time, she said that she no longer wanted me to work with her anymore. So a new teacher came in, which was Stacy White. And I worked with her at the time. Actually, I was her actual assistant in the classroom. And Stacy White they made it very clear that the new teacher come in that they wasn't going to discuss any previous incidents that happened with any of the kids. I guess they didn't want to scare her off. So, and I was fine with that because to me it was like a fresh start. I was happy to be in a new classroom, and I was okay with that. Well, here I am, a brand new teacher comes in, and she says, "I heard that you was a snitch on the hallway," and I'm like, okay. I was like, I said, personally, I don't want to discuss that because that was something that happened last year. And whoever told you that, they told you wrong. So I said, I left it with her. I said, you will have to see for yourself. As we work here, the first week, Stacy White started working here. We were putting the kids on the bus. And either we were putting the kids on, I think, or taking them off the bus. I can't recall, but whichever, I don't know if it was in the afternoon or during the day. But whatever the incident was, I think I think it was in the morning because he didn't want to get off the bus.
This is Jake again.
Jake.
Yep. Okay.
He wears a harness.
Uh-huh.
So she pulled him by the two harness and yanked him off the bus. And that's when the new teacher, Stacy White, said, I can't believe she's doing that to him. He was on the ground. She was literally kicking him, and a parent saw it. A parent went to the office and reported it. Now, there was no way that she could say that one person told it because she had got so angry with him that everybody saw it. And then that's when Stacy White finally went up to her. She eventually sometime told her, you need to be careful with how you handle him because not only myself, but there are other people and parents that are watching, and they will, somebody is going to complain if they see you handle him or mistreat him inappropriately. Obviously, I don't know if she took it to heart, but from one incident, it went again. There were times where she would put him in a rifting chair, put him across the hall, and leave him all day.
Now this is after you've left her class.
This is after I've left her class.
Okay. And
now there were several times during that time that I was there that she's put him over across the hallway.
Here?
No. It would be next door.
Okay.
It was next door at the time.
Okay.
And she would put him over across in the hall. Put him next door.
Okay.
There were some times where if she got mad enough, he wouldn't eat lunch. She wouldn't give him lunch.
Okay. All right. When he was across the hall in his rifting chair, was anybody in there with him?
No.
Okay. And how long would he be there?
It all depends. Sometimes he would be there more than 2 hours. Sometimes it would be 30 minutes.
Okay.
It varies.
Okay.
Sometimes it varies.
And could anybody see him from her classroom?
You would have to be sitting at the table to per se see him. I per se could see him because my desk, this is the window, my desk was sitting there.
Okay.
I could see if somebody's coming down the hallway versus before her and the other assistant can because of the way that the desks are turned.
Right.
But if that door is closed, there's a window there just like it is on all the other doors on this hallway. So all depends on where he's sitting. Sometimes they'll try to sit him in front of the door to where he's in front of the window to where you can see it. But it had gotten so bad to where he would constantly just bangs on the wall because he knows that he's over there by himself and he wants some attention and he's like, he knows if he's sitting for some point of time, yes, he's gonna get aggravated and it's gonna make him even more mad. So he would get mad and but when he's over there, the door is always closed because anybody comes down the hallway, he's going to get your attention.
Okay. And do you ever have anything to do with writing students' IEPs?
No.
Okay. But you know basically what their behavior plans and that sort of things are from the IEPs. Was putting him across the hall by himself part of his IEP? Okay. Is that acceptable ever to leave a student by themselves?
No, not to leave them by themselves. According to what I was told, we can retain them if they become a behavior in the rifting chair. Now, I'll be honest with you, since I've been here, maybe this year since we got a new IST, I never, and I don't think anybody else that's been here ever knew really what the procedure plan is, but I'm not a dummy, and I know, and I will be furious if somebody put my child across the hallway all day unsupervised. I don't care how much they're retained or restrained, that would still make me upset, and I'm quite sure that can't be in any rule book. But to leave them over there by themselves, I mean, he would stay over there sometime until he would poop on himself, and he was a low kid, but he was smart in his own way.
Kind of crafty.
He could make himself poop. He would push it out so, and he would literally stick his hand in his diaper He'll either lick it or one time he smeared it all on the wall. The last incident I didn't see when he was put across the hall. And yes, myself and other people witnessed him being over here.
Okay.
On the last time.
Right.
The recent incident.
In May, right. Yeah.
How long he was over here? I know he was over here for a period of time because anytime I walk up and down the hallway, I see him sitting across the hall. Was he supervised at the time when I saw him? No, he wasn't.
Okay.
Was he over by himself? Yes, he was. Was the lights on at the time? No, it wasn't. Now, I saw at the end of the day, he had to have been over here a pretty long time because when we took our kids to lunch, it had to be, we go to lunch every day about between 12:40 and 12:40 and 12:45.
Okay.
So when we went to lunch, if I'm not mistaken, he was still sitting here. Whether they fed him or not, that I can't say because I don't know. But when we put the kids on the school bus, which was at 3:15, he was still here because at that particular time he pooped all on himself, and they had to take everything out. They had to, even the people had to come in and clean the carpet because it was that bad. I mean, they had to take all of his clothes off. They had to clean the whole rifting chair, put it outside. So obviously he hadn't been sitting for a long period of time for that to happen. So
okay, but last year you weren't in Melanie's classroom. You were in Miss White's.
Yes.
Okay. And did you move halfway through the year in 2005, 2006, or did you finish out 2005, 2006 with Melanie?
2004, 2005, 2006, halfway.
Halfway, okay. All right. Now, going back to what you said, even that first year that you felt like she was too rough, can you tell me what she was doing that made you think it was too rough?
There were times where she would rub her butt in his face. Yes.
Like physically touching?
Like he would be sitting in his chair. And she would rub her butt, yes, in his face. Or sometimes she would rub her boob, she would do this in his face.
And I mean, we're talking physical contact, not just wiggling in front of him. Okay.
And, and of course, Jay, you just gotta love him. I mean, he was a big kid. He could be aggravating at times, but I mean, you gotta love him. And of course, he fed off of that because she could handle him, because he just really at that particular time he wouldn't do for anybody but Melanie. I don't know. Maybe if it was the aggression, I don't know. You just could not. You couldn't say you have to take a different toll with him than you would the other kids. I mean, you can't say, "Hey, Jay." No. You couldn't be like that. And that's how it was with her. And at one point at a time, closer to the end of the year, it had gotten so bad that Stacy White at that time was our lead teacher on the hallway, and she actually told Miss Soulsby that, and even told Melanie Pickens, you need to take a break. And during that time, from the time that I was in there up until 05, 06, they even asked, maybe you need a break from him. Somebody else would take him. No, she didn't want to.
Okay.
She did not want to. She refused to give him up. Somebody else was going to take the weight off of her hand. So it was like, well, here we are, starting again, back to square one. And the first thing everybody's saying is, oh Lord, we're going to go through another year, and here it goes again, and there it went. It would be times where he would be at his locker. He would be up, and he always plopped on the ground. So she would pick him up again, jack him up, push, pull his pants literally and give him a wedgie and jack him up against the hallway. Well, the older he got, the more aggressive he got. He started to get bigger, and it started getting to the point to where he literally wanted to, he begins to lash out now, because now it's, okay, now you're doing it now, just to really aggravate him. And it could be to the point to where he's doing it to aggravate her as well. But, I mean, there were just things that she would do, like she would, oh my gosh, she did so much stuff. There are times she would be kicking him on the ground.
Now, when you're saying kicking him, other people have described her nudging him with their feet to try to get him up.
I guess that would be the word, like nudge. But some days it's nudge, but then there are other days when it's actually kicking him.
Okay.
She don't like draw all the way back. But if you're mad enough and you go, just get up,
Right.
That's what she was doing. It started off as nudging, but then if he don't comply to that, and if he's constantly like pushing her away, like hitting back, then yes, she's kicking.
Okay. And explain to me again how she would jack him up against the wall. Before we go there, what was the problem with him just staying on the floor? Why couldn't he?
Why would he even get on the floor?
You said he would plop all the time?
Yeah. If he didn't want to do something, if you're getting up, he had a problem with his legs.
Okay.
His legs were, they were like slightly bent. So I think there was a problem where he wasn't getting the proper therapy that he needed.
Okay, like physical therapy.
Yeah, physical therapy.
Okay.
So it had gotten to the point where there were days where, you had to feel bad for the kid. He couldn't walk some days. His feet are slightly turned in. He wore down sneakers so bad to where that foot began to roll completely in. And then before they finally start saying, mom probably finally said, okay, now it's getting bad, okay, we need to do the physical therapy now, which maybe they should have done it a long time ago, but it still doesn't justify what happened.
Right.
But it got to the point where he had to wear AFOs, which are like the braces on the leg, to help keep the leg straight so that he could walk better than what he was. Well, on some days he didn't want to walk. And there were some days he was just lazy and he can't talk, so we don't know if it was lazy or if he just couldn't walk.
Hurt or
right, so there is a wheelchair. If he doesn't want to walk, put him in a wheelchair. To me, I felt like she had this thing where I'm the teacher and you're going to comply regardless. There is only so much that these kids can do. And applaud them for what they can do while they can do it now.
Right.
If he doesn't feel like doing it today, fine. Find something else for him to do that keeps him going, that keeps him motivated. If you're constantly giving him the same thing all the time, he doesn't like that. Not only myself saw that, but there were other teachers. He probably could go work with another teacher, wouldn't have a problem. When he gets back in there, it's the same thing. It's just like routine every day. It starts from the time he gets off that school bus up until the time that he goes home. And it's routine every day. And it had really gotten so bad with me to where I literally in 05, 06 did not want to come back because I felt so bad. I would go home and tell my husband, I said, you know what, I feel so bad because I know something and I don't know who to go to tell. I didn't feel like I could go to my principal and tell her because she already knows what's going on. It's not like something that slammed her in the face yesterday. She knew what was going on and she never did a thing about it. So guess what? It went from Jake to other students. Maybe not as bad as Jake was, but these were other students.
What would she do to them?
Like I said, she sprayed Aaron.
And so his clothes are wet? Are you thinking then?
There's like a mist bottle.
Okay.
He uses disinfectant. And one time he cries a lot. He really does. He cries a lot. He stays sick a lot. And his parents never come get him. There are some days when there are happy days, but that tolerance level, some people can tolerate it more than others. And at that time, Miss Judy, which Miss Nancy at the time, she would take him a lot. And take some of the weight off of her because if you sit in a room all day, and first of all, I have children. so it doesn't bother me. I'm used to a baby crying. So if you have kids, you're used to it. You know, at some point you tune it out.
Right.
But I mean, he was crying all day, constantly, every day. After a while, I could tell that she would get so tense. It was like bothering her so bad, and she would like go over and she would take the wheelchair and she would go, "What is it? You know, what is it? Are you dry? You want to eat? What?" You know, and he can't talk back.
Right.
And she would get so mad. And there are days where, I mean, we had to learn this kid. It took a lot for us to learn what he likes and what he doesn't like.
Right.
He would sweat so bad, and he didn't like his wheelchair. He hated to sit. Well, at home, Mom specifically said, we don't keep him in a wheelchair at home. We let him lounge a lot. We lay him out. If that what makes him happy, do it.
Right.
If it makes him happy. No, her thing was, he's going to stay in a wheelchair. He can't talk. He can't write. He can't use his mobility to do anything. He is a vegetable. He is, but, I mean, he still has a personality.
Right.
And there were days where she would take him out of the chair and just get so mad she would slam him down on the floor, on the wedge, which is like a big long red thing that we use to restrain kids sometimes. And when she slammed him down, he would still cry. One day we were cleaning desks and she just went over, she just sprayed him. You know, there was a kid in our room named Rafika. She would spray her. You know, but
did she act like that was a playful thing too, or?
I think she thought it was a playful thing. But we never said anything because it was almost like, I mean, if you say anything, then, you know, who has your back? You know, and I think that was the whole ordeal of the whole thing that went on. You know, that it wasn't that nobody knew. Everybody knew on this hallway. There's not one person on this hallway that could ever say that they never knew what went on. And I never knew, never knew that even coming to the school that here it is, they say that she has an incident from a previous school. And I'm like, I can't believe if that is the case, they let somebody else come in here and work knowing that these are kids that can't talk back. And when I went to Miss Boyd and I brought it to her attention, it really made me upset because you know what she said to me? First of all, she said, well, your child can talk. It doesn't matter if my child can talk or not. I don't care if my child couldn't talk. I don't want somebody to mistreat my child, regardless. And I felt like if she feels this way about this incident, I just said, you know what, I'm not going to open my mouth again. But it's going to come a day where she's going to cross the wrong person, and some parent and some teacher is really going to catch her doing what she's doing, and then it's going to escalate, and look what happened now.
And you're talking to Miss Boyd when defects came in about Aaron, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But you didn't go to her any other time?
No. I went to her IST.
Okay.
Which was Paula Mary.
All right.
I talked to her.
Do you know how many times?
Jeez. To be honest, I can't even recall. It was so many times.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. And this was only when you were working in Ms. Pickett's classroom? Okay. And what would Ms. Merritt tell you?
That she would have a talk with Melanie, and from my understanding, she was taking it to Ms. Boyd.
Okay. And what kind of stuff did you tell Ms. Merritt?
I would tell her about incidents that would happen on the hallway in reference to if she heard something about what happened on the hallway, she would ask me about it, and I was like, if it was something that I knew, I would say, yeah, that happened, you know, and she would say, and she would go, and she said, okay, and from that point, she would say that she was going to talk to Ms. Boyd. How it transferred, that I couldn't tell you, but she knew.
Okay. So Merritt knew. She said she was telling Boyd, and then still nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
Okay. So were you in Ms. Merritt's office? Did you only talk to her about incidents when she came to you first, or did you go to see her independently?
There are times I would go independently, and then on time. Sometimes she would come to me, or she would go to anybody else on the hallway.
Right.
Or anything.
Okay. Okay. And you didn't go beyond her to tell anybody because you didn't think anybody would back you up? Okay.
The only person that I went beyond to tell at that particular time, the year that I was in there, was when the incident happened with the social worker.
Right.
When DFACS or the social worker, whoever it was that came
And
in.
what exactly was that? Was that when she threw him down on the ledge, or was that something else?
That had to, it was a combination.
Okay.
It was a combination because, from my understanding, when they spoke with me, they spoke to me about, did we witness her do X, Y, and Z to this kid, and this kid.
Okay.
So, obviously, I can't really recall if that incident, and I think it did start with the camera incident.
Okay.
When Jake got hit on the head with the camera. I think it started with that.
Okay.
And then it kind of escalated to pretty much the other case.
Okay.
Well, actually, we were questioned by, with the other kids.
Did Miss Boyd ever come down the hall and check things out?
To me, I think the only time she ever came down the hallway is only when every now and then if something happened.
Okay.
When I say, but regularly, no. No, she didn't. I just kind of got beaten. I don't think she really, I shouldn't say that, but just my personal opinion, I don't really think she cared for the special need children as much because, it was a distance opposed to the filling assistant principal that we had here before. We saw her all the time because she loved our kids. We saw her more than we probably ever saw Ms. I say probably out of a month, we probably saw her maybe twice. Okay. Maybe 3 times out of a month.
Okay.
But it's very, very short. Maybe when they're in the home living center doing a meeting, but actually to come out and socialize and sit in the teacher's classroom, I've never seen it.
Okay. And who was the assistant principal that was so good about visiting?
Actually, she was kind of like the fill-in after Ms. Boyd left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had her.
So you're talking about this year?
This year.
Okay.
That was the first time we've ever seen a principal come down here as probably much as we did, and we don't know if it was. I can't say. She didn't seem that if she didn't not like the kids, we were thinking maybe because of what happened. The hallway had a lot of traffic, so it was almost like everybody felt like they had to be on pins and needles, and you had to be careful about how you do this and how you do that. When to me, let me say for me, it's like an everyday job. I don't come to work because I need a paycheck and because I have a degree. I know there are so many other things that I can do, even doing what I'm doing now. But I love what I'm doing because I love the kids, and I love my job. So I do what I do because this is something that I love to do. So, I can't speak for others. I can only speak for myself.
Right. Okay. So, what about language? Did Miss Pickens use inappropriate language with the kids?
Sometimes she would use inappropriate language.
Like what?
She would use a cuss word like shit. What else she would say?
Did she ever cuss at them?
Individually, like if they made her mad enough, she would. But just per se, just kind of lash out and just cuss them in their face. I haven't per se just seen that. Okay. But if she gets mad enough, and if they don't comply, she would.
Okay.
It would be like, damn it, or something like that. It's just kind of like a blurt out. They don't understand, so
Right.
But per se in their face to just call them out a flat name, no. Or sometimes she would call Jake a retard or something like that. But,
what about mocking them? Did she ever mock them?
Sometimes she would. Sometimes she would
How
mark.
did that go?
She would just do it. I don't know. She did it out of for fun sometimes, but she would mark him. Like Jake had this thing where he would go, and he nods his head a lot, and she would do this, like a.
Put her hand on his
like
chin?
she would do this.
Oh,
like,
make it wobbly.
Kind of like marking him back, or sometimes Rafika does this a lot. And she would go, what? She would do that back at her.
Okay.
But other than that, no.
Okay. Okay. So, let's see. So she would jack Jacob, and that's something I'm still having trouble visualizing.
This is how she would do it. He would be on the floor.
Okay, just laid out.
Well, Indian style, because every time he sits, it's Indian style.
Okay.
Sometimes he will lay out.
Okay.
She will grab him from behind like this, because she's so short.
Right.
And if she could get him at least to his bottom, and he would use his weight to lean back.
Okay.
She would push him forward to the point to where she could get him to the wall. She would literally pick him up, put her knee to get him, and eventually he would try to slide down. And if he tries to slide down, she'll put it right there in his bag, and she'll push him up. She'll take her butt, push him up to where his feet is maybe like this high off the ground.
Oh, completely off the ground.
And she would hold him, and he would sit there just banging on the wall until she felt like he was done. And if he was done, then eventually she'll let him down. And if some days, if he doesn't have his feet up off the ground, she'll just sit there and plant herself up against him like this until he's ready.
What made him ready or done? Or, what was the purpose of this?
Again, if he's just having one of those moments, and if he doesn't comply, anything to get him up off the floor, because if not, he will sit there all day.
And why is that a problem? I'm not saying it's not.
I just a problem for her.
For him to be on the floor all day.
Who knows?
Okay.
Who knows? It's just.
Were there activities he was supposed to do? That
sometimes there would be activities that he was supposed to do.
Okay.
And he hates to stand. So sometimes anything that we can kind of do as for reinforcement. He hates. We all know he hates to walk. So if he can't do his work sitting down, she'll take the chair and she'll say, "You have to stand for a certain amount of time." And eventually, he's getting to where those legs are giving out. So he'll lean to the table, and you might actually see his legs shaking because they're giving out. And she'll make him stand until she thinks that she's seeing that he at least trying to do some work. There will be some days where he will do his work. There will be some days where he would have a good day. A good day for him is probably coming in the room and he's just quiet. And a good day for him, he got to be sick. He really has to be sick to be a good day. Or some mornings his mom gives him Benadryl at night. And when she gives it to him, it takes a minute for it to wear off.
Yeah.
But when it wears off,
he's ready.
He's ready to go full force.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be out of to me. I think it's just for her is what she could use for behavior, or when he's putting out behavior. This is the method that I could use because it seemed to work for me because he's in my classroom. And then when people would complain about it, she would say stuff like, "Well, you know what? If people got a problem with it, then they need to come and see me because they don't have him in their classroom. But you wanted him in your classroom. You had the opportunity to give yourself a break from it,
right? But
you chose not to. You felt like you just had to keep him another year. What sense does that make?
Yeah.
If you need a break, take a break. Pass him along to somebody else until." And see how they deal with them. And they actually started doing it. They actually even started this thing where we would change classes during the day.
Okay.
He would go to Miss Sophie's class in the afternoon, I think for maybe 30 to 40 minutes. he was fine in there. He was totally fine. From what they say he was fine. And then close to the end of the day, it's time to transfer back to your classroom. It starts up again. You know, so I don't know if it was just the animosity between those two, you know, but there's still a way that you deal with those scenes. You know? And I don't know. Maybe that's probably what it was.
Wow. Okay. And when you said she would do things to aggravate him, give me an example of what you meant by that.
She would do stuff. She would be sitting at her desk. She'll throw something over at him. He was, he has what you also call, I think if I'm not mistaken, Prater Willie, which that's a person that loves to eat.
Okay.
And he is prone to, he would do anything for food. He would do his work. He would even lash out and grab food. He steals food very badly. And there would be some days where he would take the other people's kids' food. So if he did, they would take his lunch away.
Okay.
It would be all done. So the minute he takes, and you're all done. Whether you're done or not, you're all done. And he knows that. But he would do it. And then some days, we would catch him. He would even go in my lunchbox. He would go in Miss Judy's lunchbox. And we literally had to watch him for that. And it had gotten so to the point to where sometimes she would throw stuff over at him to get him stirred up. Maybe it could be beads. And he loved to string beads. Anything to just get him, you know, get him stirred up. Anything to just get him stirred up, she would aggravate him. Or he could be quiet some days and she would go over and she would, you know, hug him and, you know, pat him. And then, of course, he doesn't know when to quit. He doesn't know what his limit is. So, of course, he wants to play back now. But playing back for him, it may be a little rough. Then when it gets rough, that's when you back off. You have to say no. But then she'll feed on to it. She'll continuously keep giving it to him. So now he's getting right. And it escalates to a totally different level. Then that's when I just felt like if he's quiet enough, just leave him. Let him stay quiet because you know the minute you get him stirred up, you know, that's the way it's going to be. But it had gotten so to the point to where we had to totally just put him in a wheelchair because he refused to walk, and that was one of his goals in PE. He had to walk, and it was so to the point to where doing PE class, he would just totally plop down on the ground and would not comply to anything. And he would not get up until he peek around the corner and see Melanie coming. But when she comes, it's like, get up. You know, sometimes he'll comply, sometimes he doesn't. You know, and then at that point, if he doesn't get up, then that's when it comes to nudging with the feet. Anything to get him moving just to get him up off the ground. And if that doesn't work, then she does the kicking. Because after a while, he's now going to get angry and he's going to get agitated. So now he wants to fight back. So now you're making him mad now, and that's starting to a whole different level. And it had gotten to the point to where our IST just said, if he gets to that point, call the resource officer. Let him come and try to get him up. Does she do that? No.
That was Merritt that told her to do
yes.
that? Okay.
And it's just started getting to the point to where she wouldn't do it. At times she wouldn't. And she would just try to do it herself. And then that would just make matters worse.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I want to look back through my file here before I... What time do y'all go home?
At 3, between 3:15, 3:30.
Okay. I'd have to come back out here tomorrow. But I appreciate you taking your time and talking to me. Okay. Do you know anything about Miss... Is it Conway or Conway, the custodian? How do I say?
Nathan Conley.
Conley. Okay. Do you know anything about him going to Miss Boyd?
I heard at one time that he had went to Miss Boyd.
Okay.
But I don't really know what happened with that incident, because how he got my cell phone number, I have no earthly idea. And he called me and said that they called him in the office.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if they wanted to know. I think what happened was when the information got back to Jake's mom about the camera,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the only thing that I can think of. They wanted to know how did he find out, and he felt like they were badgering him, like, who told you? You know, you need to tell us who told you, and you know, and how do you know Jake's parents and this, that, and other. You know, and I'm thinking maybe that's the feedback, because he called me on my cell phone one day and said, do you know they kept me in the office for such and such time because they wanted to know? And I'm like, who's they?
Mm-hmm.
And I know he said Miss Boyd, and I think Paula Merritt.
Okay.
I can't recall anybody else.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, tell me if this is accurate, because this is about that last incident, the one in May. Miss Tallent's assistant, Ms. Mathis, went home ill about 11:30. About 1:50, Miss King asked Miss Talent if she needed any help. As Miss King walked down the hall to Miss Talent's room to ask her that question, she noticed Jake's voice coming from the adaptive PE room. She was in Miss Talent's room about 2 or 3 minutes, and Miss Talent told Miss King that Jake had been in that room for a while. From about 1:40 to 2:30, Jake was still in that room by himself. After 2:30, Miss King had to go to the bathroom. When she came out into the hall, she noticed a very strong odor. When Miss King was taking her kids to get on the bus, she saw Jake in the room, and he had had a bowel movement. She saw that he was covered in feces all over himself, the chair, and on the carpet. It was so bad that the teachers couldn't use the PE room the next day. Jake is usually put into that room by himself on an average of 1 or 2 times a week. He's always by himself with the door closed. It's usually because of behavior problem, and Jake does not understand that this is punishment. Is that okay? All right. Okay, and you talked about her rubbing her butt on his face and her breast. Did you ever see her pass gas in his face or anybody?
Oh yeah, she would do that sometimes. She would do that on him sometimes. She would literally go up and pass gas on him.
Was that supposed to be funny or?
It's funny to her. Sometimes he would laugh. I don't know why, but he would laugh. She would do it. It would be funny to her.
Okay. Okay. Did I forget to ask you about anything? Nothing comes to mind? Okay. All right. Do you have any questions you want to ask me?
You've already explained about whether or not this is going to be perfectly or not. The file will.
Could be. It does. I mean, it's not. It has the potential to be. It's not something we are going to publish or anything like that.
I do have a question.
Okay.
I don't know if you can answer it or not, but does this information determines whether or not this is a case to whether or not she would have, I guess, return. I don't really know how it works. Her teacher's credentials, or will she still be able or allowed to?
That's one of the things the commission has to decide. As I said earlier, we're the licensing agency, so we don't have anything to do with employment other than the fact that you're supposed to be certified if you work in a public school in Georgia. So all we have jurisdiction over are people's certificates. The commission has 5 sanctions that they can choose from. So basically, they have a total of 6 choices. They can say no probable cause to take action, or they can recommend one of these 5 sanctions. And the sanctions are a letter of warning, a letter of reprimand, monitoring, which is a probationary kind of thing, suspension, and revocation. Okay, those are their 5 options. If neither the letter of warning nor the letter of reprimand will take you out of the classroom. Neither will monitoring. They rarely use monitoring. So, either suspension or revocation will take you out of the classroom. Suspension means that for a period of time, and the commission sets the period of time. It can be anywhere from a day to up to 3 years. And at the end of that period of time, your certificate is returned to you. And as long as you're up to date on CEUs and all that sort of thing, you're good to go as far as teaching.
That means that you can still teach back in the same county?
If the county would hire you. So theoretically, yes. If your certificate is revoked, then at the end of 3 years, you can petition for the right to reapply. And that means that you write a letter to the commission and say, okay, it's been 3 years since you revoked my certificate, and I want to get my certificate back. Then there'd be another investigation, and that investigation basically would say, okay, we've got your file from whatever got your certificate revoked. Now tell us what you've been doing in those 3 years. Where have you been working? What have you been doing to remedy whatever problem caused your certificate to get revoked? And so basically that's the kind of thing they're looking for. And then they would vote yes or no to let that person reapply for certification. So that's a roundabout way of answering you, but there are 18 people on the commission, and I gave up a long time ago trying to second guess what they would do on any case. What I can tell you is that they look at each case individually. It's not just a cookie cutter process. They look at each case individually. There's all kinds of time for them to discuss it. And then, of course, if they recommend one of those sanctions, and if the person disagrees, they have the right to a hearing. So.
Well, for the record, I think Melanie Pickens I think she is a nice person. She really is. I mean, she's a nice person. When I started working here, a lot of things I didn't agree with that she did as a teacher, but my personal opinion, I don't think sometimes you find out later in life whether or not what your goal is. And maybe, I just think that maybe this population is not for her. I just, because it requires a lot of patience.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of patience,
I
and
admire
I
y'all.
see that challenging. It's a challenge for me every day.
Yes.
Every year we get different kids that come in here with different disabilities, and I think, to me, my point of view, working for the system as long as I've been here, I think that they should give us more training. They don't. They should.
What kind of training do you have?
None.
None?
None.
Nothing on restraints? Nothing.
If you see how long I put in, 2 years ago, to learning to properly restrain, that's something that each one of us on this hallway wants to know, because what we may think is probable cause, it may not be that for somebody else. Where do you draw the line? I mean, we do have kids on this hallway that is very physically forceful, and you have to use restraint. But I mean, I think in this setting, what we do every day, I think the county should provide more information and more classes on how to do restraints. I think we should have more classes on study special needs, just anything that's dealing with our department, because this is what we do every day on a day-to-day basis. I mean, we're doing some things, I think, to me, we're doing medical stuff when this shouldn't be stuff. It really shouldn't be things that we should be doing. That is, medically, these kids need some medical attention, and it shouldn't be things that we as a system really shouldn't do. But who else is going to do it? I think because they're put in this setting, this is what you do every day. But you got some people that basically just say, you know what, I don't want to do this, because if anything happens, I don't want to be held responsible. Well, where do you draw the line? And I think the system sucks, honestly, when it comes to that, because there are people like myself and like Pickens that need that, because maybe had she been in a different setting, and I don't know, maybe if that was something that was addressed the first time, it wouldn't have escalated to something bigger this time, and I'm a strong believer. You may have slid through the crack, but eventually somebody's gonna catch it. And I hate what happened to her. I really do. Lord knows I hate what happened to her. But eventually, for me, I'll be honest with you, I felt so good when it was like relieved off of me. It was like a burden lifted, because I'm like, oh God, here we go again. I gotta come back to the school, and I love the school. But Jesus, everybody's like, we gotta come back to the school, and we gotta be going back to square one again, and I'm like, okay, you can get through with some parents, but a lot of these parents they don't tolerate a lot of mess when it comes to their children, and that they are their first priority. And while we're here, they should be our first priority. So, I mean, I am kind of glad that this situation has gotten resolved, because I would hate for that not only to happen to her, but to any other teacher. At some point, where do you get help? If you feel like you're emotionally stressed, then you need to get help. Don't take on so much. And I think that's what happened. You feel like coming in, I gotta do. We're not miracle workers. There's so much you can do. So I hate that it happened, but honestly, I am really, really relieved that it's over with. Because when I found out that someone was coming today, and I'm like, oh God,
not again.
This all over again. I thought we were done with this, but I mean, anything, I said, I told my husband, he said, just go in, tell the truth, and tell what you know. And I felt bad, because the guy that investigated, I can't think of his name, that came out the first time through Fulton County, it made me feel so bad, because he said, true enough, he said, I know the way that it sounds, but it does, he said, if you look at it in a sense, it doesn't make you no better than it makes her, because you knew. And that's the part that made me feel so bad. And I tried to explain to him, I said, I know. And I cried so because I said, you don't know how much emotionally that affected me. You know, I said, it affected me so bad that I didn't want to come back. And I just felt like they're not going to miss her. They're not going to miss her because even though I feel like I'm good at what I do, I'm a good worker, but who's going to miss her? Oh, she's just this troublemaker on the hallway. Well, you know what? It's not just myself. People are, they see stuff too, but they're scared to say stuff. And you're put in a position to where we never knew what the chain of command was. And I had to ask him, I said, if you don't mind me asking you, what if there's an incident that ever occurred like this again, what is the chain of command? And he finally told me what the chain of command was, and I was like, we never knew. Had we known, you know.
You don't have a employee's handbook or anything that says that?
It doesn't per se say what he said.
Okay.
No, it doesn't. But we do have an employee handbook, but it doesn't per se the way he said that we should go about doing it. It didn't per se say that, because had it did, trust me, I would have never went to Miss Board. I'd have went over her head. But because I felt like basically if you feel like you can't get anywhere with your teacher, then you take it to the IST. If you can't resolve the matter with the IST, then it goes to the principal. That's chain command. And what sense does that make if you take it to the source and nothing is getting done? That means you letting not only that one person, but there are other teachers that are probably out there that's doing the same thing she's doing and sliding through our system, and it's making our system look so bad. And that makes me angry. That makes me angry to know that I work for that system and I'm a part of it. And I'm being a part of what's going on. I may not be committing the act, but I'm a part of what's going on. That hurts me. That really hurts me. And I have a child in elementary school, you know, and I try to talk to her every day about how was her day, and you know, just that just hurts me.
Yeah, it's disturbing. It really is.
It really is. But maybe whatever happens, I hope that whatever it turns out to be, I hope that it gets resolved, and hopefully we don't have to go through this again.
Yeah, I hope so too. Okay, will you get me somebody else, please?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
No